Welcome back, everybody, to the Functional Code. We are excited to bring to you guys today another podcast. We're going to be talking about sleep. However, this is our core episode. We're going to be diving only into about 30 minutes, straight to the point, pure value, all the gems only from our sleep podcast combined. So we're excited to bring that to you guys today. As always, I am Dr. Addy.
And I am Dr. Jace, going over everything from sleeping positions to the sleeping environment to what on Dr. Addy's nose, the nasal strips, and we'll even touch on a little bit like the mouth tape as well. All this stuff will absolutely aid and enhance the quality of sleep. We'll also get into some of the stages of sleeping as well. So everything you need to know, tools, application, nuts and bolts, so we can dive right into improving your quality of sleep. Moving forward from there.
Doc, really quick, why do we need to sleep?
Yeah, sleep is where most of the recovery happens from everything we do in everyday life. It comes from all the stress and the maintenance of the body that can get retuned when you go into the sleep cycle. And fascinating enough, not a lot of the general public knows that a large portion of brain activity occurs when we're sleeping.
Yes.
We just don't realize it. The maintenance thereof of the body.
And I know Huberman talks about how it helps with, was it memory consolidation? And it can help with, Dr. Daniel Amen, he likes to tell people that it's how we clean our brain. He's even talked about how there are processes that it's as if we are cleaning our brain. We're picking out the things we don't want, setting in the things we do want, and then of course we're washing it, is what he will say.
I love that.
So it's incredibly important for not only our body but our brain, and we were evolved to sleep for living longer and feeling better.
Love that.
So things that we're going to touch on, we're going to talk about breathing, especially nasal breathing, how to improve it using technology and other things, why it's important. We're going to break down the different stages of sleep again very quickly, and we might even touch on better ways to sleep, things to look at, such as positions, and then might even get into some supplementation towards the end too. Doc, very quick, do you want to touch on when we should be, let me rephrase this, why we should be focused on getting up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, and why the circadian rhythm is so important for us to master?
Absolutely. So when humans evolved on the planet, the one factor that was pretty much put into the equation was the sun, night, day. So you have to start thinking about that your body and all pretty much life on the planet for the most part has to deal with these not only seasons but the 9-day wake cycle, which then gets filtered into their circadian rhythm. So that naturally filters and more or less communicates to all the cells in the body through different processes to aid in pretty much the maintenance of the system. So more or less what I mean by that is circadian cycle, circadian rhythm. It works on about a 24-hour-ish time cycle to where once you get up in the day, you're going to get down, silly girl. So once you wake up for the day, it actually starts a clock to put you into sleep later in the night. So what you want to do is to help regulate all the other systems of the body. You want to get on a consistent cycle, and that is weekdays and weekends. And that's where it's more challenging for some. But let's say if you go to sleep at one time, or even if you're traveling and you're changing time zones, you would want to try to fall asleep at the same time of the same time zone prior to that travel, which will help you reacclimate a little bit easier. But more so than anything else, if you're able to regulate the circadian cycle, circadian rhythm, it helps for everything else in the body, thus aids into getting to sleep from there.
Perfect. Next, for patients and anyone who's listening, why is it important to regulate the temperature when we're sleeping?
Yes. So temperature, one of the main things when you look at going into sleep is you want to more or less decrease your core body temperature, which helps you put yourself into like deeper stages of sleep much easier. So one way that you can do that quite well is take a very warm shower at night, but have a very cold room. So you're warming your body up to drop it down into a colder environment, and thus helps you move your system into that deeper cycle of sleep sooner than later. And then one of the main things that wakes us up in the morning, other than the circadian rhythm, would be as your core body temperature starts to rise, it gets to about a threshold, which then wakes you up from there, which is why when even earlier in the human evolution, like more times than not, we're either outside and the sun on the horizon will wake us up from there.
Yep.
Thus, the core body temperature rises.
And I found that if I don't keep my room cool, I don't sleep very well. I know I have found that out, and it's gotten to the point now where I found that I need to really drop my body temperature to sleep well. And I was glad I lived in Minnesota for as long as I did, because it was easy for me during the winter to sleep. I slept very well in the winter when it was cold, not so much in the summer. And it was very tough for me to acclimate to Arizona because of the change in climate. But I have figured out a way to keep a certain temperature in my room, darken my windows, obviously, to not allow a lot of sun in, and that has gotten better over time. But core body temp is crucial. If you haven't played around with it yet, I'm telling you, it is another great step to getting better sleep.
And then some of the ways that if you want to regulate core body temperature, it'd be through warm or cool water, running water over your hands, or a damp cloth over your forehead, or putting your feet in either warm water or cool water. Those are the three areas that you can regulate that.
Yep.
Thus why I usually have people take a shower before bed, so you can get all those areas to drop it or increase the core body temperature as well.
Yep. And it's not in here, but I'm going to add it in next, is nasal breathing.
Ooh, yes.
One, we know that nasal breathing can help promote the parasympathetic activation, which is our rest and digest state of our nervous system. And it's been shown that if you can improve your nasal breathing, your sleep quality increases, your REM sleep and deep sleep increases, your ability to just sleep better increases. Not only can you use nasal breathing apparatuses like what I have on today, this is from what's called Intake Breathing. It's a company that is a magnetic, let's see if I can show you it before I don't peel off my. So I have these two little patches on my outside of my nostrils, and they have a magnetic core to them. And so you'll see these have little metal plates on the outside of the apparatus. And it comes with different sizes of apparatus, just because some people have larger or smaller noses. But you'll see once it clicks in, it now brings my nasal passageway open, and I can breathe a lot better through my nasal passage. For myself, I have a deviated septum, so it's harder for me to breathe out of my nose. But not only is it important to keep a good passageway through the nose, but if you tend to be a mouth breather, mouth tape can also be helpful. And we showed in one of our last podcasts the differences in how mouth tape and nasal breathing improve sleep through all this research now that they're starting to do within the last few years. So definitely give it a try. I highly recommend. If you are a snorer, those two things can help you stop snoring, can improve your sleep. Super helpful way to improve your sleep.
Yeah, especially if you get dry mouth and it's harder for you to keep your mouth shut when sleeping. Like this specific tape is not like duct tape that you put over your mouth.
No.
It actually allows enough air to come in and out as it almost holds your mouth shut, and it can go over beards, a mustache, facial hair.
It's a breathable
Adhesive.
slip, adhesive slip. Again, you're no worries of suffocating or something like that.
Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, no, super important moving forward from there. I would suggest that for anyone. In fact, I just ordered some last night, nasal strips, and then also a mouth
tape?
Mouth tape.
Oh, nice. I still have to order the mouth tape.
Ooh, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm excited to try the mouth tape.
Love that.
So, Doc, I know you've played around a lot more of this than I have, but how about incorporating sound and frequency therapy?
Ooh, yeah, so different types of frequencies can help you get into different stages and rhythms of sleep, if we will. So depends on the stage of sleep. Usually you would want to get into a calmer state. The specific frequency off the top of my head is, how do I want to say this? It can vary, and there's a bunch of different apps on that in terms of the specific hertz. However, in terms of like white noise, that can help significantly for some people, whether it's white noise of like running water, rainfall,
Yep.
the forest, whatever is a calming state for you, beach. Funny enough, Gary Vee, he sleeps to the sound of chaos, and he
Really?
sleeps like a baby.
What is he like
He
the
likes
New York
loud,
streets or something?
Yep,
That's
loud
funny.
commotion. And I don't think it's as much white noise because I don't know how his wife plays with that. But I know in one of the past pieces of content he has put out, he said that he can sleep and he sleeps better with louder noise in the background, which
Interesting.
is mind blowing.
That's funny.
So I'd say that this would be better for whatever puts you into a calm ease state on that side of things. And then from there, try to calm your system down going into sleep, even having in terms of outside of the sound frequency, even get into a different mental state to where you would want to calm the system down. I mean, you do this a bunch of different ways. We'll get to lighting here in a sec, but more or less long exhale breathing or the double inhale, prolonged exhale will
Yep.
calm the system down as well. You match the rhythm of your breath with a calmer state of sound, vibrational frequency. It just accelerates pretty much the circadian rhythm and also diving into the first stages of sleep
Yep.
on that side of
Yep.
things.
I do some type of frequency or noise play. I do a guided breath work before I fall asleep. Sometimes that helps
Love that.
a lot. Anytime I Google more calming, it's delta waves for me. I'll just Google delta waves with music, and usually
Love that.
most everything I play gets me pretty calm. I don't know if it's actually delta waves inducing. It's just a
Yes.
YouTube video, but
Yeah. Still.
those are the waves we are trying to upregulate when we are trying to fall asleep into a deeper sleep.
Love that.
So, Doc, with supplements, do you? I know we both had talked. I think last time we chatted about this. You have tried melatonin, but it wasn't really for you, or you haven't tried melatonin yet.
Yeah, I've tried melatonin early on in my
Okay.
life. Didn't notice too much of effect, and now knowing and learning that your body naturally produces melatonin, like endogenously, like through your pineal gland. If you can optimize your body's natural resources, it makes, for me, no sense to take an external resource or a supplement to aid to sleep. And most supplements, one, are not, they don't have what they have. They don't have what they say they do in the package in the first place.
100%.
So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, peace of mind, is it even worth the cost? Is it
100%.
even worth the money? I know there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about the supplementing. There's L-theanine, there's apigenin, there's chamomile, which is usually found in sleepy time tea. All these things matter. I just want to preface, if you have night terrors, sleepwalk, I would hold off on L-theanine. It can almost increase those symptoms more
Valerian
so.
root as well.
Valerian
Valerian root as well. Yep.
Perfect. So some of those small things can help. I think the biggest thing is outside of supplementation would be some of the stuff we've talked about. But if you want to start on any of those, I like L-theanine quite a bit, but God, any just sleeping time tea for the most part. Because usually if you look at any type of tea, more times than not, it's going to be warmer tea, which has more of a soothing effect, which can help significantly for most aspects there. But Doc, is there certain supplements that you look at outside of?
I don't take a lot of supplements anymore. I try to get most of my, we'll call it nutrients, via whole foods. But if I do take supplements, if I were to take a supplement for sleep, I would take one that doesn't have melatonin in it, which is what I usually do. The biggest ones I've taken are Calm with magnesium in it. That seems to be it. It's not as helpful for me as I've heard it for others who have taken it.
Sure.
I've used products that have L-theanine in it. I've used products with valerian root. I've used products with ashwagandha. I've used products with, what else is there? There's one more that I think is helpful. It's blanking me right now, but
No worries.
really the reason why I think melatonin isn't helpful is we don't have a lot of research on it yet, but the same principle that you thought about, which is it is a neurotransmitter, and if taking that exogenously for a long period of time, I would only predict that it has a influence on the output of that from ourselves. We don't see that yet, Some research has shown that it could, some research has shown that it doesn't. There was a gentleman who took 50 times the limit of melatonin every day for 8 weeks, and he measured it before and after, and there was no output change. But again, that was only 8 weeks. We don't know what a year looks like. I do know, though, of the ones who have taken it consistently, they've said they've had to increase dosage over time.
Which makes sense.
So that starts to worry me a little bit. Again, it's tough. It's tough because I understand how important sleep is. I'm not saying that's something you shouldn't be worried about or thinking about. But there are far more effective ways to regulate sleep long term than just relying on a sleep aid.
Yeah.
So the things we've talked about, including temperature of the room, how dark the room is, consistent sleep time, nasal breathing, environment. We haven't talked CO2 yet. We're going to get to that.
Yes.
But those things, I think, will create such a better sleep routine, sleep habit outcome longer term than just relying on an exogenous melatonin.
Love it. So let's say you want to influence the natural melatonin produced by your body. Well, light is going to be one of the biggest factors on that. Especially later in the night. Let's say you want to start getting your system primed for sleep, probably a good couple hours before bed. If you're going to have light on in the house, having lower lights, so lower dim light, not overhead ceiling lights. So some of that mimics certain genes in our eyes, whether it's coming from top down versus bottom up, which regulates different parts of the brain. So that would be one of the reasons why. So low dim light throughout the night. And even if you go to like your fridge and the light's blaring, unless you're staring at it for a while, that will have a small effect, but not as much as you think, depending on the time that you're exposed to that light.
What about screens, Doc?
Oh, screens is a whole thing. Screens absolutely will affect melatonin output and also affect your wake cycle.
Yep.
Make it more challenging to get into deeper sleep. Started playing around with this, and I've noticed huge effects for myself. If you tilt your screen off to the side, so where you can still see it, but the light's not completely blaring at you, but more outwards, that can have a better effect. So I've started playing around with that. I tried a good 2-week cycle every night of having the phone on, and I wouldn't suggest phone in bed at all, just in the first place. But I noticed that compared to 2-week cycle of facing forward, much more challenging to go to sleep when facing phone. That's one small case study versus what potential effects could be.
Makes sense, though. It does make sense.
Definitely notice the effect on that. So,
other things you guys could try are blue light blocking glasses.
Yes.
Those are helpful. I've been using mine. I think they're really helpful. The other thing would be just not having screens for the last, hour or two before you go to bed?
In a perfect world.
Yeah, in a perfect world, of course.
And I even was at Greenfield. Ben Greenfield. He said, don't even put your phone in your room, turn on airplane mode, because just even the signal of...
like Wi-Fi?
Yeah, or the signal of the cellular signal to your phone will have effect on, I don't know as much sleep, but on your whole system in itself, too.
He talks a lot about that.
I suggest look up Ben Greenfield's information on...
Yeah, he's got a wicked sleep hack.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, if you look at his sleep routine, it is crazy. It's awesome, actually.
Love that.
He uses he used to use Chili Pad. Now I think he uses Sleep 8, but it's this incredible water cycling mattress that cycles cold water through your mattress to cool underneath your sheets.
That's cool.
Yeah. Chili Pad used to be the fun one, but then Sleep 8 was made. I think Huberman might be in with Sleep 8.
Wow.
I know there's some other ones in with Sleep 8. Musk, I think, too, uses it. But anyway, Sleep 8 is the new technology we're talking really hack your sleep. When I can afford it, I definitely want to use it.
Probably thousands.
I think it's in the thousands,
which makes sense. Most beds are, but yeah, that adds up there. All right, so Doc, let's dive into the CO2 and then we'll get into sleeping positions as well.
This was new information for us this year. We were able to have the luxury of listening to Dr. Andy Galpin speak live in Vegas this year, which was phenomenal among all the other speakers we got to see. But he brought up a piece of information that neither Dr. Jace and I had ever heard before, and that was talking about CO2 levels in your bedroom. And why that's important is because it's well documented that over 900 parts per million of CO2 can very much disrupt your sleep. And we were both looking at each other and we're like, we had no idea. And I've already been looking into CO2 monitors for my bedroom and just making sure that there's just other little things that you can track and monitor to make sure that you're getting a better sleep. And why we're so dedicated to this is because we know how important sleep is.
Important.
These are, you look at us like we're nuts, but we're telling you, we are going to be feeling so much better, so much later in life when we continue to have good sleep. You will. So the CO2 tracker that I'm looking at is on Amazon. I think it's like $150 to $200. When I finally purchase one, I'll let you know what brand I went with, and then I'll let you know how that's been going. But
Cool.
yeah, like I said, 900 parts per million is the metric that you would want to make sure to measure for. If anything higher than that, my guess would be to either have a window open, door open in your room, better airflow. I still have to look up some other ways to improve lowering the CO2 output. Mouth tape probably to avoid CO2 expulsion. I'm not sure how much that would have an effect.
Certain plants too can absorb
Yes,
the CO2.
that's right. I forgot about that.
I don't know.
Spider
what
plants.
Yeah, that's one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, my girlfriend was telling me about that. She loves plants, and so she sends me a new plant every week about the CO2, and we need to get one. We definitely need to get one.
I love that.
Doc, was there anything that you took away from the CO2 talk that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. When you look at, like, even if you're in a room but the door's still open, you try to, he brought us through the example of try to take a breath in, hold it as long as you possibly can, and imagine the CO2 buildup in the room without as many filters to clear it out. And if you can imagine that if you're having multiple people in a bedroom or a room, or if you're a one-bedroom house, on how it can affect your system. Because if you can't hold your breath for that long, obviously it's hard for most people. Can't imagine sleeping and getting oxygen in your system with the amount of CO2 in the room. And that was definitely a light switch in my mind of, okay, there's something to this. How can we diminish the amount of CO2 expulsion for ourselves? Like, obviously we have to breathe constantly, but at the same time is if we can optimize and getting either more oxygen in the room or eliminating the CO2, it naturally aids in the sleep cycle significantly.
Yeah, and I'm excited to play around and see what variables would either raise or decrease CO2 and what that looks like too. But yeah, super excited on that. It gives me some more science and playtime to do other things. But so lastly, Doc, sleeping positions. We broke down really in depth sleeping positions on one of our first sleep podcasts. But do you want to just very quickly give audience members an idea of what to think about in terms of the spine and why they might be having pains upon awakening if they're not doing a good job about that, pillow height, all that stuff. What does that look like for them?
Yeah, so for people that are looking to sleep better or they try to roll and try to find a comfortable position, when you take in consideration gravity, consistently putting pressure on our body, if there's compromise or pressure on certain parts of the nervous system, based on certain positions that you find yourself in, it can affect how you sleep and then staying asleep. So the best position for most humans, most people, would be sleeping on your back. Depending on the pillow, depending on how your feet are laid down, more or less it helps with the curvatures of your spine, thus the shock absorption when you get up from sleep.
Yep.
So that's going to be one thing. Second best position would be on your side, and then definitely I would have everyone avoid sleeping on your stomach. Yes, it helps force like your heart coming forward, which has a calming effect on the system, but naturally you have to twist or turn your head, and then it can contort your whole upper back spine, which can lead to other problems with symptoms, numbness, tingling down to the arms, hands, headaches. I think a big key, if you're sleeping on your side, pay attention to the angle of your head based on your spine.
Yes.
If you have a thinner pillow, watch that your head will tilt and it can jam at the base of the skull, especially between C1, C2, and it can affect headache symptoms, running the ears, fatigue, brain fog to a certain extent. Or if you have a thicker pillow, the same thing can be true. So trying to keep your head as even to your skull as even with your spine as you possibly can. Super important. And then even on your side too, considering if your leg comes up and over, if you don't have a pillow underneath the leg that comes up and over, it can almost force against gravity your SI joints and your lower back to be torqued as well,
Yep.
which can lead problems and lower back pain from there.
Yep.
So those would be a few key ones. Let's say you're laying on your back. Pay attention, does your head complete torque off to the side? If so, put maybe a pillow blanket so it doesn't turn completely over. And then also pay attention to the feet. Are your legs consistently rotated outwards, externally rotated? If so, maybe try one night where both of the feet are facing one way and maybe another night facing the other. Or slash end, pay attention with excessive pressure on your toes. If your feet are pointed, it can lead to lack of dorsiflexion or bring your toes up to your body, which can then affect your walking and other gait cycles as well too. So consistently switching up feet positions and not having too much pressure on your toes. If you're sleeping on your back will help as well there too.
Yep.
But Doc, is there anything I'm missing, or is there anything that you've looked at sleeping position?
No, you hit it all in the head. I love the talk about the neutrality of the neck and the spine when we sleep. I think back sleeping is number one as well. I tell that to all my patients. I tell them we have cervical pillows that we can order for them that allows for better support with the cervical lordosis or curve of our neck. Now, not everyone can sleep with that on as that support for in the beginning for long periods of time. So I say start on your back and then you can roll to your side. That seems to work well for these patients who are just starting out. Not everyone can just switch to a new sleeping position right away, so
It takes time.
it does take time. But I do find that those who are incorporating the cervical pillow along with back sleeping are sleeping better. And then if they have to sleep to their side, to sleep on their side, they say that it's plenty comfortable to do that. No, the only other thing I was thinking of is when you have really a lot of back pain. One thing that I have, this is more of a hack than it is like an everyday thing, but when you have really bad back pain, a lot of the times it can be relieved, not every time, but a lot of the times, by putting 3 or 4 pillows underneath your legs and then raising up the legs. You'll find that actually then flattens the spine a little bit because it can be quite comfortable if you have a back pain. So that's another little hack that can be helpful. Another one would be, I call it the half position, where it's halfway on your back, halfway on your side.
Yeah.
A lot of patients, I try this with a few of them, who can't sleep on their back. They hate it, but they're having a lot of pain because they're side sleepers and they can't, whether it's a shoulder issue or a hip issue, and they just can't fully be on their side. So you kind of wall yourself on some pillows behind you and you sleep at an angle where you're like 45 degrees, halfway on your back, halfway on your side. And that can also be helpful in the interim if you're going through a shoulder or a hip issue. Even neck issues, sometimes patients find that to be helpful. So that can be another sleep hack to get you through the pain, but eventually full back sleeping is where I would eventually like to get you to.
And since you brought that up, I forgot to add in the arms, because some people, they sleep with their arms up overhead.
Yep.
Or if you're on your side to where your arms are either underneath your pillow. The part that I want to bring up with that, when your arms come up for longer periods of time, your collarbone clavicle naturally externally rotates and elevates. So the problem with that is when you're putting this position for longer periods of time and then you stand up and go against gravity, that can affect shoulder problems, especially if certain bones and joints are used to more pressure, and then it forces elongation and rounding the shoulders, which can lead to other problems from there. So ideally, arms a little either lower by your side, and I've had a patient too to where he slept on his side with his arm and it forced this numbness, tingling consistently.
Yep.
We started breaking down everything, and it was just something small as having the arm from the side, laying on it to a few inches in front of him, and it alleviated all that from there. So arm position matters, trying to have everything either neutral or shoulder height down in a perfect world will also help significantly as well.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and if you guys want to even see the positions being acted out, Dr. Jace did a good job on the actual podcast, sleep podcast. It's one of the first ones we did.
It's the 4th one, I think.
Go ahead, go back and get that checked out, because I do think it does create a lot of positive change when you have a good sleeping position.
It's huge.
All right, Doc, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up for today's pod?
I think that was I think we hit everything,
Yes.
all the nuts, tools, bolts. I feel like there's a couple small things we may have missed, but in general, I think those are very key.
Yeah, let us know how that goes for you guys. If there's anything else that you think we've missed, just breaking down sleep now, and this is probably the fourth or fifth time we've talked about it. Just let us know. All these things are going to make a huge difference, and it is something you should put your attention to. You should definitely be focusing on building a better sleep routine, better sleep habits. All of it's going to really improve your life. Until next time, guys, have a solid rest of your day, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys for listening. It really does mean a lot. So,
yes, sir.
You guys have yourself a great day.
Woo! Share and subscribe. All right.
Disclaimer: the content provided in this health podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast is solely at your own risk. The creators and hosts of this podcast are not responsible for any actions or decisions you may take based on the information presented.
Thanks for joining us on The Functional Code. For more evidence-based health insights, subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, your journey to a healthier you begins with understanding the Functional Code. Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and embrace the science of living well.